What is up, guys? Lonehawk here today, and welcome back to an Overwatch patch notes review. In today's video, we're going to look at the changes specifically made to the heroes on the PTR server of Overwatch, and we're going to skip over the changes to competitive because I made a whole video about them earlier in the week. So let's just jump right into it here today and talk about these heroes, what changed, and what my opinions are on them. First, we have two general changes that should affect everyone, and the first is ultimates that consume the ultimate meter when activated will now drain the meter 4 times faster. This won't change too much. It doesn't actually change the duration of any ultimates. It just means that little window where the ult meter is going down will go down faster. So if you've ever died right when you're using an ult and you realized you got your ult charge back, well, that little window where you can die and get most of your ult charge back is now a lot smaller. So just be aware of that and make sure you're ulting a little bit more safely. The other change is actually quite a big one. Remember a while ago when they fixed projectiles and Hanzo stopped shooting trucks? Well, actually, they're reverting that change. All projectiles are going back to how they were when Hanzo's projectiles were massive. And on top of this, some projectile heroes like Hanzo are getting buffed. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about Hanzo first because, well, he's probably the one to benefit most from this revert. Hanzo is also receiving 2 buffs. Hanzo will now experience only a 30% decrease in speed while aiming instead of the old 40%. And also, his maximum projectile speed has been increased by 30%. So now he moves faster while aiming, and his arrows move faster, and they've been reverted to having giant hitboxes. This is a super buff for Hanzo. Now, this is a pretty big buff, and I think he'll see more play than he does now, a lot more in quick play, and maybe a little bit more in competitive. However, I do think Blizzard needs to keep an eye on Hanzo, because I also think Blizzard is going to make the projectile small again. And it wouldn't be fair to make the projectile small and not buff Hanzo a little bit again, unless he's ridiculously OP after this patch, which I don't think he will be. So I'm just asking Blizzard to make sure they take a look at Hanzo next time they make the projectile small and not just leave him out on the curb. Deva is the next hero that received a change, and hers was a slight nerf. So Deva recently has been extremely annoying. She can just constantly turn on and off her defense matrix, and it seems like it's never on cooldown. She can always block your bullets. Well, now, after being activated, defense matrix will begin regenerating following a 1-second delay instead of a 0.5-second delay. This will help Divas not spam on and off their defense matrix as much and hopefully allow them to use it in more of a way that Blizzard intended, where it's either on or off, not just being constantly switched between the two. I don't think anybody's going to complain about this change. I think it's a very good decision by Blizzard. It was very annoying before, and this change also doesn't really nerf Deva. Deva will still be a great tank, and I don't think her win rate will suffer. It just forces Deva to actually make the decision now, do I want to use defense matrix or do I want to shoot, and not both. Now, I know this is going to make at least half of you cringe and maybe half of you jump for joy. Mei is receiving some small buffs. Her Blizzard projectile now pierces barriers, and the radius of her Blizzard has been increased from 8 meters to 10 meters. So basically now she can throw her projectile for Blizzard through Reinhardt's barrier and Winston's barrier. Not too big of a change. And a 2-meter increase, that is actually quite a big change. That's going to make her ult way bigger. It's a much bigger area than it was before, because you have to think a circle, when you increase the radius of a circle, it makes its area go up by that amount squared. It's different. It's weird math. But the circle is going to be much bigger. The area of effect is going to be huge. So this is a pretty big buff to Mei. In my opinion, the fact that it pierces barriers is neither here nor there. However, I don't think this is going to make Mei any more competitively viable than she was before, because you have ultimates like Zarya's ultimate, Reaper's ultimate, that really outclass the freezing one, because why freeze the enemy team when you can bunch them all up and have someone kill them, or just kill them all yourself as Reaper? Now, I know it's not exactly like that, but that's the way I see it. I think Mei needs a little bit more buffing, even though I hate her with a passion. I think she needs a little bit more buffing. I do think this will help a little bit, but not much. Following suit with Deva, McCree is receiving a small nerf, but don't worry, McCree mains, it's not that bad. Deadeye, the way it used to work was you activate it once and you have 50% ult charge, and if you fired your shots, you lost the other 50%, leaving you at 0, but if you didn't shoot your shots in Deadeye, you'd remain with 50% ult charge, is now going to work in a similar way to any other ultimate with a duration. It will now just drain when you activate it, and it will drain pretty fast because they just changed that. Remember when we said in the general section, the change to the way ultimate charge goes down? Well, it's going to go down really fast. So basically, when you activate McCree's ult, there's really no way to unactivate it or get any ult charge back, which I honestly don't like. I think the way it should be is it should decrease from 100% to 0% in the 6 seconds that you have, and it should decrease linearly. So if you run out of time and you go to 0 seconds, you'll have 0 ult charge. But if you realize halfway through the ultimate, hey, this isn't working, and you cancel it, you should get that 50% back. That's just my opinion on the matter. McCree is quite powerful right now, though, so this nerf may be needed. Regardless, though, I don't think it's going to hurt him that much, and I think McCree will still be very dominant in the high rank scene and the pro scene, and maybe even a little bit in the mid to lower competitive scene. The second best female in Overwatch, that being Mercy, is receiving a buff. Her healing per second has been increased by 20%, and her Resurrect will resurrect allies in 2.25 seconds instead of 3 seconds. Now, these buffs are nice, and Mercy mains are probably, pretty happy about this, but I'm going to tell you guys, these buffs really don't mean anything. The reason Mercy isn't seeing play, and the reason she's not very good right now, isn't because of her Resurrect or her heal, although those are components to it. It's because she can't peel for herself like Lucio and engage very fast and disengage very quickly with that speed boost, and she just can't fight for herself, whereas Lucio has a somewhat of a chance when someone comes up and catches him off guard. Also, his mobility makes him very hard to catch off guard. This is why Mercy is bad. So I think really the only way to make Mercy good isn't with these statistics buffs, although Blizzard could go this route. I think it's really with more of a rework of one of her abilities. But wait, there are some changes being made to the other supports in the game. Lucio is receiving a nerf, and Zenyatta is kind of receiving a tweak. Let's talk about Lucio first. The nerf that he received was to his amp it up on his speed boost. Now, when he amps up his speed boost, his teammates will only receive a 70% move speed boost instead of a 100% move speed boost. This change is kind of a step in the right direction, in my opinion. Now, I love Lucio, don't get me wrong, and I hate seeing him nerfed. However, he did need a nerf. He is very powerful right now, and something needed to be done. The way Blizzard handled this was they changed his speed boost, which I think is probably the best way to handle it. It's one of the reasons he was extremely powerful, because remember when I said Mercy was weak because she didn't have a speed boost? Well, now the fact that she doesn't have a speed boost isn't as bad because Lucio's speed boost has been nerfed. However, all of the other things still do stand, so I think Mercy needs some bigger buffs. I don't think they should continue nerfing Lucio. This nerf is fine. I do think they need to move over, start buffing Mercy a little bit more to make her more competitively viable. The other support to receive a change was Zenyatta, and his change was a tweak. Zenyatta's Orb of Discord was nerfed, so it only amplifies damage by 30% instead of 50% like before. But his base damage has been increased on his standard left-click attack. His Orbs of Destruction now deal 46 damage instead of 46, and when you scale this with his Orbs of Discord that still give you a damage boost, he'll still be dealing around the same amount of damage on his own. His Discord will be less useful to his teammates now, but it'll still be around the same value to him because he deals more damage. So overall, I guess it's a slight nerf, but it isn't too bad. I think it's a good way to handle the situation without completely nerfing him into the ground and making him useless once again. Speaking of useless, Blizzard completely ruined Genji. They took it way too far and made Genji so ridiculously underpowered, nobody's going to be complaining about him anymore. His double jump no longer resets when wall climbing. So if you didn't know, if you haven't watched my Genji guide, you used to be able to double jump, wall climb, and then do a third jump off the wall, essentially giving you kind of a triple jump. that no longer works, and you can only jump twice. The triple jump technique was used by better Genji players, so what they're doing is lowering the skill ceiling, and now the players that were just mediocre at Genji, that weren't that great, aren't seeing any nerfs. They're just making Genji worse for the people that are really good with him. If you're gonna nerf him across the board. Don't do something like this that only affects players that know how to perform these cool techniques. He was hit by some other nerfs as well. His dash no longer deals damage to traps like Widowmaker's Venom Mine or Junkrat's Steel Trap. And speaking of Junkrat's Steel Trap, Swift Strike no longer bypasses the trap. It used to be able to. Also, Swift Strike no longer interrupts quick melee attacks, and the duration of Genji's ultimate has been decreased to 6 seconds from 8 seconds. Blizzard, what on earth are you thinking? I honestly hope these changes never make it out of the PTR server because they're ridiculous. You didn't just nerf one thing, you nerfed his entire kit. You made him useless, piece of garbage. There's no reason to play Genji anymore if you can't perform these cool tricks. They lowered the skill ceiling way too much. And that concludes our PTR patch discussion. There'll be a link in the description to the patch notes because there were a few small changes, lots of bug fixes. I think there were also some new emotes added that look pretty darn cool, so you can check those out on the PTR server yourself or on YouTube, or just check out the patch notes in the description. Hopefully you all enjoyed today's video. I went off on a rant near the end about Genji's nerfs, but hopefully it was still informative to you all. Hopefully you all agree with me, and I will see you all later. Lone Hawk, out.